Good morning everyone. My name is Charles J. A. Sereno and today we are going to discuss about the things that happened during the exile of Dr. Jose Rizal in Dapitan. Rizal left Manila sailing on steamer Cebu through the islands of Mindoro and Panay until 7 o'clock in the evening of July 17, 1892. He reached Dapitan, a remote town in Mindanao which was under the missionary jurisdiction of the Jesuits, and this town became a solitary witness since July 31, 1896. During this time, it was considered one of the most fruitful periods with varied achievements in Rizal's life. His stay in this town was more than a life of an exile. It was because it was the period when Rizal had more focused on serving the people and the society through his civic works, medical practices, land development, and promotion of education. It was also the period when Rizal found somehow his brief interlude of peace and freedom. Rizal lived at the residence of Captain Carcinero during the early part of his exile life. Now, Captain Carcinero is a politico-military governor of the district. Rizal lived at his residence because he did not agree with the condition laid to him by Father Pablo Pastels. Now, Father Pablo is a superior of the Jesuit parish priest of the Pitan. These were the following conditions laid by Father Pablo, which Rizal did not agree. First is that Rizal must publicly retract his errors concerning religion and make statements that were clearly pro-Spanish and against revolution. Second is that he must perform the church rites and make a general confession of his past life. And the third one is that henceforth Rizal must present in an exemplary manner as Spanish subject and a man of religion. Now, regardless of the situation, the relations of Captain Carcinero and the prisoner Rizal were warm and friendly. Now, Rizal also, I mean, Captain Carcinero also gave Rizal a complete freedom to roam anywhere in the Pitan, and moreover, he was also given permission to ride his favorite horse because Rizal was an excellent equestrian after all. Now, Rizal in return respected the generosity of the commandant and wrote a poem entitled Adon Ricardo Carcenero on August 26, 1892 as a gift to the captain's birthday. All about faith. In the Pitan, Rizal had a scholarly debate with Father Pastels regarding religion. This exchange of heated arguments revealed the anti-clerical Rizal his bitterness on the abuses performed by friars, doing such under the name of the pure religion. Father Pastels tried his best to win Rizal back to the faith, but apparently it was in vain. The series of debate ended inclusively in which neither of them convinced the other of his arguments. Though they both have religious differences, they still remain good friends. After that, Father Pastels gave Rizal a copy of a famous Catholic book by Father Thomas E. Kempis entitled Imitation de Cristo or Imitation of Christ in English. Also, Rizal reciprocated by giving the Jesuit priest a bust of Saint Paul which he had made. Now, although Rizal did not subscribe to Father Pastel's interpretation of church doctrine, he continued to be Catholic. He heard Mass at the Catholic Church of the Pitan and celebrated Christmas and other religious festivities accordingly. His Catholicism, though, was an inquisitive form of such sort, like he was seeking for profound and acceptable explanations. Now that was all for my part, and this will be continued by my co-reporters JV and Edison for further explanations. Thank you. Arigato.
So this is the continuation of the previous report. And now let's proceed to the awakening of the Pitan. So before we proceed, I will introduce myself first. I am JV Refill, BS AIA student of Talibon Polytechnic College. So, in July 1892, Rizal reached the Pitan as a prisoner. He found it as a sleepy little town but soon became awake. His stay improved his artistic and literacy skills, doing agricultural and civic projects, engaging in business activities, his careers and achievement in different fields. The first field is the architectural and engineering works. When Rizal obtained the title Perito Agrimensor from Ateneo Municipal, he already had practical knowledge in surveying. He widened his knowledge by reading engineering books. He successfully provided a sound water system in the province. He said to Father Pastils in his letter, "I want to do all I can for this town." Then the next field is the doctor is in. Rizal provided free medicine to his patients and most are underprivileged. He had wealthy patients like Don Ignacio who paid him 300 pesos for restoring his sight, an Englishman who gave him 500 pesos, and Don Francisco Azcaraga, an Aclanon haciendero who paid him a cargo of sugar. In August 1893, his skills was put to test when his mother, Doña Teodora Alonzo, was placed under ophthalmic surgery for the third time. The next is the rivaling the best in Europe. Together with his friend Father Francisco Sanchez, he helped remake the plaza, which he jokingly said must rival the best in Europe. They made an excellent map of Mindanao, and they helped the citizens place lampposts at every corner of the Pitan's first lighting system. From Lotto to the lot, the farmer to trader, Rizal devoted his time in planting important crops and fruit-bearing trees in his 16-hectare land to 70-hectare later, which he was able to claim because of the lottery ticket that he had purchased and won him a prize of 6,200 pesos, and all of which he spent in the Pitan. He bought a land all along the bay and built himself a little house where he spent much time there. He imported agricultural machinery from the United States and introduced to the native farmers of the Pitan the modern agricultural methods. He tried his luck in the fishing, hemp, and copra industries, but only in the hemp industry, in which he became more successful. Ug mayon ta kanang hemp kanang sa Tagalog pa kanang abak ka. Man siya. The next field is the once a poet always a poet. In 1892, only Rizal and his sister Lucia had left Hong Kong for Manila. In August 26, 1893, Trinidad and Doña Teodora left Hong Kong and proceeded to where Rizal was. Rizal wrote another poem and he sent the poem to his mother on October 22, 1895. The poem entitled Mi Retiro. A polyglot. Rizal was interested in the languages used in the Pitan. He studied and made comparisons of the Visayan and Malayan languages existing in the region. Rizal knows 22 languages. These are the Tagalog, Ilocano, Visayan, Subanon, Spanish, Latin, Greek, English, French, German, Japanese, Portuguese, Swedish, and Russian. And the following will be reported by my colleague. And that's all for my part, and thank you.
Good day everyone. So by the way, my name is J. Edison Garcia. So I am one of the reporter of the chapter 5, the Exile, Trial and Death of Rizal. So my report is only the continuation on the report of Mr. G.V. Torrefield, The Awakening in the Pitan. Since number 1 to 6 had been reported by him, so I am going to continue number 7 to number 12. So number 7, inventions and scientific work. Little is known of Rizal in the field of invention. However, in 1887, during his medical practice in Calamba, he invented a particular type of lighter called, gitawag ni siya og sulpukan, which he sent to Blumentritt as a gift. According to Rizal, the wooden lighter's mechanism based on the principle of compressed air. Another of his invention was a wooden brick maker that would manufacture about 6,000 bricks a day. Rizal shared his interest with nature to his students. With his boys, they explored the jungles and searched for specimens which he sent to museums in Europe, particularly in Dresden Museum. In return, scientific books and surgical instruments were delivered to him from the European scientists. He also made a bulk of other researches and studies in the field of ethnography, archaeology, geology, anthropology, and geography. However, Rizal's most significant contributions in the scientific world was his discovery of the 3 species. So na siya na-discover ang 3 ka species. So una, he discovered Draco Rizali, a flying dragon. As we see in the picture, mura siya tiki nga naipako. So flying dragon, so mulupad yun siya sa ato mura gitawag ni siya og kanang hambubukag. So the second one is the Apogonia Rizali, a small beetle. So usa siya ka gamay nga bakukang. And the third one is the Rhacophoros Rizali, a rare frog. So usa siya ka baki, red yung color as we can see in the picture. So the next is the Tree of Knowledge. Rizal established a school in Talisay near Dapitan, where he had his farm and hospital. 16 young boys from prominent families attended the class. Instead of charging them for the matriculation, he made the students do community projects for him, like maintaining his garden and field. He taught them reading, writing in English and Spanish, geography, history, mathematics, technical work, nature study, morals, and gymnastics. He encouraged his students to engage in sport activities to strengthen their bodies as well. There was no formal room, as the typical classroom nowadays. Classes will be conducted from 2 p.m. to 4 p.m., with the teachers sitting on a hammock while the students sat on a long bamboo bench. His favorite rendezvous with his boys was under a Talisay tree, after which the place, in honor of Talisay, he wrote a poem entitled Hymno a Talisay for his pupils to sing. So next is the Sweet Foreigner. Rizal had always been missing his family and their happy moments together in Calamba, and his despair heightened upon hearing of Leonor Rivera's death. Soon after, to his surprise, an Irish girl lightened up his rather gloomy heart. This girl was the 18-year-old Josephine Bracken. Slender, blonde, blue eyes, well-dressed, and of a light countenance. From Hong Kong, she arrived in Dapitan in February 1895 with his blind foster father named George Toffer and a Filipina named Manuela Orlac, mistress of someone in the Manila Cathedral. Rizal's fame as an ophthalmic surgeon reached overseas, and one of Rizal's friends, Julio Lorente, referred his group to Rizal. Rizal and Josephine instantly fell in love with each other, a relationship which Rizal's family was not pleased. Rizal had anticipated the anxious reaction of his family, and so he tried to bridge such gap between his relatives and Miss B, as he called her. In a letter dated March 14, 1895, he appealed to Doña Teodora. According to Doña Teodora, please treat Josephine as a person whom I esteem and much appreciate, and I would not like to see exposed and abandoned. In 1 month's time, they agreed to marry, and when Mr. Taffer sensed their developing affair, he flared up in violent rage, trying to commit suicide. But Rizal prevented him from killing himself. To avoid any tragedy, Josephine went away with Taffer to Manila. The blind man sailed off uncured because his ailment was venereal, hence incurable. Mr. Taffer returned alone in Hong Kong, and Josephine stayed in Manila with Rizal's family. Later, she returned to Dapitan. However, the parish priest of Dapitan, Father Pedro Obac, refused to marry them unless Rizal retracted from religious error and returned to the Catholic Church. Since no priest was willing to marry the two, they decided to have a live-in relationship which enraged the priest even more. In 1896, this bore its fruit. Josephine was pregnant. Unfortunately, like some accounts say, as a result of some incidents that might have shocked or frightened Bracken, she gave birth to a premature baby boy who lived only for 3 hours. The child was buried in Dapitan, bearing the name Francisco after Rizal's father. So next, number 10 is A Talk in the Garden. After the outbreak of the revolution, the Katipunan leader, Andres Bonifacio, sought the advice of Rizal. In a secret meeting on May 2, 1896, at Bitukang Manok River in Pasig, the group agreed to send Pio Valenzuela as a representative to the Dapitan, who would inform Rizal of their plan to launch a revolution against the Spaniards. With a round-trip first-class ticket worth 60 pesos, Valenzuela went to the Dapitan and used the name Procopio Bonifacio. Aboard the steamship Venus, he arrived at the Bay of Dapitan on June 21, 1896. Together with him in the ship were Josephine Bracken, Rizal's sister Narcisa, and Rizal's niece Angelica Lopez. From the ship, Valenzuela, together with 2 other companions, Raimundo Mata, a blind man, and Rufino Magos, an attendant, proceeded directly to the house of Rizal. At night, Rizal invited Valenzuela for dinner. After supper, they talked in the garden. There, Valenzuela told him of the Katipunan's plan. Regarding this, Rizal outspokenly objected Bonifacio's premature idea for two reasons. His first reason is the Filipino were still unprepared for such bloody revolution. And his second reason is that the Katipunan lacked machinery. Before plotting a revolution, there must be sufficient arms and funds collected. Rizal also advised the Katipunan leaders to attract all wealthy and influential persons of Manila and the provinces to join the secret organization. To attract the rich, he suggested them to seek the help of Antonio Luna. Rizal believed that Luna would be very helpful in the revolution because he can direct the campaign in case of hostilities break out. Valenzuela, on the other hand, told Rizal of their plan to rescue him in Dapitan. Again, the exiled hero disagreed because he had no plan of breaking his word of honor to the Spanish authorities. So, Valenzuela went back to Manila without convincing Rizal. Next is the nails in the coffin. During the peak of the Cuban Revolution in 1896, even before the Katipunan contacted him, Rizal offered his services as a military doctor to help fill the shortage of physicians in the said country. It was his friend Ferdinand Blumentritt who informed him of the situation in Cuba, being hit by yellow fever, and suggested that he volunteered himself as an army doctor. On December 17, 1895, Rizal sent a letter to Governor General Ramon Blanco, Despudio's successor, about rendering his service in Cuba. However, for months Rizal awaited in vain for governor's reply and lost hope for his request would be granted. It was only July 30, 1896, when Rizal received a letter from Governor Blanco, dated July 1, 1896, accepting his offer. The letter also stated that Rizal would be given a pass so that he could go to Manila, then to Spain, where its Minister of War would assign him to the Army of Operations in Cuba. It is interesting to note that Rizal at this point could be compared with a young moth allured by the flame of an oil lamp. When it reached the lamp, it burned itself in the fire that was told in the anecdote. The moth thought it conquered the burning flame, but it did not. In case of Rizal, his burning desire to leave for Cuba to help the needy would mean triumph over his enemy's doubt. Relatively, it was not. It was but nails in his coffin. So, lastly, the trap is laid. The trap is laid. At midnight of July 31, 1896, Rizal's 4-year exile in Dapitan came to a sudden end. He left the town on board the steamer Hispania, together with Josephine, Narcisa, Angelica, 3 nephews, and 6 of his students. Many were saddened as the adopted son of Dapitan finally bade them paalam. In Cebu, on their way to Manila, Rizal successfully performed an ophthalmic operation to a merchant who paid him 50 pesos. After almost a week, on August 6, 1896, Hispania arrived in Manila. Rizal was supposedly to board the Isla de Luzon for Spain, but unfortunately, it left ahead of time. Instead, he was transferred to the Spanish cruiser Castilla to stay and wait for the next mail ship that would sail for Spain next month. Meanwhile, towards the end of August 1896, Bonifacio and his valiant Katipuneros wreaked havoc in Manila as they finally stipulated the revolution. Rizal learned of the eruption of the revolution and the raging battles around Manila. In effect, he was prohibited from leaving the vicinity but was allowed to accept visitors so long as they were his immediate family. Of course, all these delays were part of the drama. Rizal fell Rizal fell to the deadly Spanish trap. And that's all for the exile of Rizal. Thank you.